Good afternoon. Welcome to the Build in Digital Micro Conference on robotics and automation towards a manufactured workplace. My name's Joe Broon. I'm the publisher and managing director of Build in Digital. I'll be today's host. Moving on to our fourth and final keynote of today's micro conference. It's my pleasure to introduce another co-founder and CEO of an SME, Mollie Claypool, who is the co-founder and CEO of Automated Architecture. Mollie, over to you. Please feel free to share your screen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mollie, co-founder and CEO at Automated Architecture, or OUR for short. I'm going to show you a very fast presentation of how we approach this problem of robotics in construction, and how we are beginning to start to scale the way that we can use robotics in construction, which we have a very particular approach. And the way that I will start is just to tell you first our mission, which is to build an ecosystem of automated microfactories to deliver beautiful, sustainable, and affordable architecture to millions of people. And this project really started many years ago. I've worked with my co-founder, Jill Retson, for about 14 years now. But I would say, kind of shifted into what we know OUR to be today in this book in 2019 that we published, which was really looking at the ecosystem of how robotics was being used in advanced design and manufacturing, and really criticizing that essentially we were applying robotics to very old problems. And we didn't need to just think about the application of robotics in construction as a labor problem or an efficiency problem, but it was also a design problem. And by design problem, I mean it is a problem of how we think about what makes up buildings. What are the parts that make up buildings? And so our answer to that question was to essentially develop an approach that we call pixel building, which is taking the computational language behind automation and developing a building system, a timber building block, that essentially behaves the same way that a pixel does in 3 dimensions. And it's automated, it's designed for automated manufacturing as well as automated design. So we also have a tech stack that has the timber building block, a design to manufacture suite, and robotic production tools. Our microfactory is essentially one robotic arm that costs £250,000 and creates an ROI opportunity of £2.5 million a year and pays itself back within 6 weeks of operation. And we essentially take this robotic microfactory and we can scale it. So for example, what I mean by that is we can have a microfactory of just one robot, or we can have a mid-sized factory, or even a gigafactory. And what this means in terms of what it can produce is that it can produce the core and shell, aka all the floors, walls, and roof structure for one home per 8-hour shift in one cell. It can produce 180 homes per year. This creates a revenue opportunity of 6.2 million per year for our customers, and creates a whole lot of savings in terms of the breakdown of that 6.2 million in terms of margin, and savings in terms of time on site, engineering, programming, management, waste, and labor. So we use this as a way of really beginning to bring down the threshold of the adoption of robotics as much as possible in terms of cost from the very outset of the adoption of working with us. What this also means in terms of the design side is that we work with house builders, primarily those who want to begin to meet their sustainability targets. Our timber building system meets all passive house standards across Europe and enables 8 times lower carbon emissions because of the design engineering that happens in our DFMA platform. And how do we do this? So we essentially take a digital unit, or that pixel turns into a block. That block turns into a panel, and those panels get assembled into larger aggregations, such as houses. And we have a design to manufacturing approach, as I've mentioned. So we use this, we take this approach very particularly because we believe that we can automate very high value parts of the design to manufacturing process. And so the first part of that process was taking the core and shell and automating that. But we have a huge amount of consequences and benefits as a result of doing that from the very beginning using our platform. So we save time on delivery, installation on site, and we also automate, for example, all of the costings that we have. I'm actually going to show you a snippet from our design configurator here now. me just skip ahead. So we use this right now internally. So we take designs that we get from developers and architects. We can automatically import them into our design configurator. We can then send that back on a web platform to, which you're seeing here, to our clients. And they can then get real-time costing and production timelines immediately in the web app. We can also see, if I skip ahead, and this is all able to be robotically manufactured. So that's the very important link in the way that we approach this work. So for example, all of the manufacturing code gets automatically produced. And then we also have developed a Revit plugin, which again means that we have blockified full construction drawings and manufacturing instructions being automatically created in Revit from the get-go. So in the web app, for example, as a service, a designer can experiment with kind of endless configurations of working with our building system and our manufacturing approach. And the Revit plugin enables a designer to link the Our database with any Revit project, blockify entire Revit designs in seconds with just one click, and get accurate costs from the Our database straight into Revit as well. For manufacturers on the manufacturing side, they can add costs for components, materials, and services, and adapt those designs as well and get the cost in seconds with the design team that they're working with. We have a series of microfactories live. This is our Belgian microfactory that was launched in Q1 of earlier this year. This became, as I mentioned, profitable within 6 weeks, and it's essentially one robotic arm and a series of different assemblies around it that allow us to manufacture our blocks. These blocks were quite small in the building system, 60 centimeters by up to 2.6 meters. We now have an upgrade for the V2 of the microfactory that's being installed later this month that allows us to create wall panels of 1.2 meters up to 4.8 meters, so quite large panels. If you look at the consequences of this in terms of labor and work is really interesting. So if you have a working day of 7.5 hours, a robot is only utilized for 5.5 of those hours. And this is numbers from March of this year, so quite a while ago, where the average time per block was 8 minutes. It's now under 5 minutes. But what's interesting here is that the working hour of a worker is only needed a third of the time in an 8-hour day. So even though the robot is able to create a revenue per day of 10,000 euros and revenue per hour of robot utilization of 1,800 euros, the difference, you're able to save a lot in terms of time, in terms of labor. You also don't need any specialist labor to operate our microfactories. We're again lowering the threshold on who can do this. So the question around skilled labor actually becomes non-existent here. We've had everyone from grandpas to 17-year-olds to the wife of my microfactory manager operating the robot cell over the last 6 months. From this microfactory, we've produced a series of projects. This is called Winter Circus in Ghent, which is the retrofitting of a tech hub, quite an amazing space, an old circus that had been empty for a long time in the center of Ghent in Belgium. And we did all of the internal fit out for the workspaces and huddle spaces, as well as internal wall partitions and acoustic panels for the largest sound system in the world to be used on the opening night. And these can be reassembled and put together for other performances that they host at Winter Circus further down the line, which is really exciting. We also currently have a 2-story house that we just finished production on in Belgium, which is a big step for us. And these are all the blocks that pictures from earlier this week of some of the larger panels that were assembled together in the microfactory. And earlier this year in June, we were able to create an ecosystem of partners that we were working with. Our Belgian partner, which is a mid-sized contractor, our developer partner, Revive, which is a pan-European developer for sustainable brownfield sites, a master planner based out of Amsterdam, and 3 high-profile architecture firms in Belgium who essentially were given our building system and given the costs around the manufacturing, and we're able to hit, in partnership with all of the above, 1,500 euros per square meter for the entire project of 260 homes. And what's interesting here is that these 2 buildings, both by different architecture practices, both with our building system, both able to achieve that 1,500 euros per square meter. So there's quite a lot of things that begin to open up when actually you link that design to manufacturing approach with robotic assembly together. There's also another image from that project. The one on the left is actually the retrofitting of a military barracks, that's already on site that we're not involved with. But on the right, you can see the third architecture practice that we worked with, the Our Homes that they developed, which had brick facades. So as you can probably imagine, we're building the world's first robotically assembled homes in terms of fully robotically assembled. We have 2 partners currently, Van den Busse in Belgium, as well as the rest of those ecosystem partners, and Rival Holdings in the US, based out in the Midwest in Indiana. We also have had ABB, which is one of the largest robotic companies in the world, as an automation partner since 2021. We're now working with them very closely on our hardware as a service business model and iterating that closely with them. We're also working with them on a bit of a surprise that I'll show you in a second of the next stage of iteration of our microfactory that will be happening later this year. But right now, the goal by the end of this year is to have 3 microfactories in operation that are able to produce 1 to 4 story single family repeatable homes and low rise apartments across 3 markets. We're right now selling manufacturing partnerships for 2025 to have 10 partners, and the next 7 microfactories are fully operational by the middle of 2025 across 7 markets. This is the surprise. We're containerizing the microfactory. One of the most important things in terms of robotic automation is to not invest in massive, large scale, super expensive factories. The building industry is too cyclical and too at risk to make that be a smart business decision. So we have developed a mobile, portable, modular microfactory that can be placed on or close to site, fits in a shipping container, and can be a mobile factory on the fly. So it can also be called in when needed and serve as incremental capacity to the needs of home builders. So this is real, it's happening. We're really excited about this. And this is what we're going to be scaling out to our partners next year. And then I'll just finish with a couple of kind of inspirational images of what this could look like. So this is an idea that we've worked on probably for about 4 years now, first with partners in Bristol in the Southwest, and now with our partners, Revive, which is with this 260 home bid, the plan for that project, which is delivering the cells onto site, building a community hub around them, both with the microfactory, and then turning that manufacturing hub into a community hub afterwards, after the hub is done building all of the homes around it. So I'm super happy to take some questions. Hopefully this is really more of an inspirational idea of what's actually really possible when you begin to deploy robotic automation out into the wild. Thanks.
Wow, whistle stop tour there, Molly. That was pretty impressive. Thank you very much for that. Really interesting stuff around the factorization of building homes for the future. Have we got any questions for Molly, please?
Just a quick question. John Greggers from W2 Partnership. Molly, is there any plans to basically try and take your product to height as well, or do you see limitations in how high you can take your building
Yeah,
systems?
so we're targeting mid-rise, the maximum, 6 to 8 stories. We have that engineered in principle, but right now we are validating up to 3 stories in the Belgian market, UK market, and US market first. In the US market, it's a bit more flexible because you can go up to 4 stories without as much difficulty.
Yeah.
But our target is mid-rise and multifamily, yes. And we've already got low-rise multifamily. We'll be in mid-rise earlier next year.
And what facade treatments are you able to use with your build
We're
system,
agnostic to
or is it
facade
open?
treatments.
Yeah.
We brick, timber. Obviously, we prefer timber, right?
Mhm.
A part
Yeah.
of what we do is around sustainability.
Yeah.
But we're agnostic in the same way that we're agnostic to insulation. In a way, we develop both the microfactory as a product, but also the housing products as a product. So we try to work with our partners to make a housing product that's right for their market, that's right for their geography, that's right for their business.
And have you, I mean, I'm presuming this is already in place, but in terms of your, should I say, warranty provisions, sort of the likes of latent defect insurers and
Our partners are essentially, I mean, they're contractors, right? Or delivery partners. So they absorb most of the insurance liabilities around that. We provide essentially a license to use our building system. So we circumvent a lot of the needs for warranties and insurances. The good thing and the smart decision that we made is that our building system performs just like timber frame. So it fits Eurocode 5 and doesn't defer off of that. And that means that we can, again, get around certification.
Good stuff. And Molly, are you guys currently working with any housing associations in the UK?
Not in the UK. We're targeting manufacturers in the UK right now to do incremental capacity to begin with. The UK market is obviously quite a tricky one when it comes to integration of innovation, let's say, mainly because of the supply and demand problem being so controlled. So originally we were targeting house builders. We've now moved to manufacturers. We're getting a lot more success there. When we have houses built in the UK, we envision that housing associations will be our next target. But we're looking to partner with manufacturers who are providing services to those kinds of companies to start with.
Hi, I have a question, please. I wanted to ask, is there any views to integrate like services or other trades into these blocks or panels?
Yeah, so in terms of automation, do you mean, or just like traditional integration?
No, within the automation, within the microfactory approach.
So we only automate high value adds in terms of automation. Right now, integrating services is not a high value add in terms of automation. Doing it the traditional way is just as fast or faster. What we do is try to minimize and optimize in the design engineering phase all of the integration. So that means that we do pre-cutting, for example. So you don't get any weird bashing through walls or weird cutting or anything like that, because we have very tight structural performance of our building system in terms of the structural playbook that we like to abide by. But yeah, automation for us is really about high value adds. We don't just automate for the sake of automating. There are certain things that we want to do further down the line. But yeah, those ones right now we're holding off on. And ultimately, it's down to our partners to make that decision.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Molly. I have a question. Really cool product and systems. It was yeah, super inspiring. I'm interested in sort of the engineering aspect of it. So like, how is that validated, or what does that sort of look like, that workflow?
So we essentially have a structural playbook that we've developed. We were originally working with a very large engineering practice, but they were moving much too slowly for us. As you can probably imagine, you're from Leco Labs, so you can probably relate to this.
Yeah.
And so now what we've done is we've actually found a timber engineer that we've hired internally, structural timber engineer, and she worked for a very large engineering practice previously. And then on the ground, we work with local engineering practices who do timber frame to begin with. So for example, in Belgium, we've developed a Belgium-specific structural playbook with that timber engineer. And then we use that learning to be able to scale into other markets for the other local engineers we work with. It's the same way that we work with architects, to be honest.
Okay.
And then there is a level of embedding structural rules into the configurator, but because right now, and we're pivoting to a model where it's a service as a service model rather than the kind of web-based configurator model, we essentially can use those rules in the algorithms behind what we do internally.
Yeah, super interesting. And so like the web configurator is sort of, is the aim to sort of like try to adapt existing designs?
We can adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can start from scratch and develop a product, and then we can adapt existing products. And essentially what it tells you, there are structural limits, right, to what we can do. So it tells you when to stop pulling, or it doesn't allow you to keep pulling. There's also rules. We have a kind of wall configurator app that we haven't launched yet that essentially will not allow you to do certain things because of structural reasons.
Yeah. Okay, super cool. And do you put insulation in your panels? Very specific questions.
Yeah, obviously.
You do, okay.
We don't automate that right now.
You don't automate it yet, okay.
Not yet. I mean, again, like it's at certain scale, yes.
Yeah.
Probably in V4 rather than in V3.
Handling different materials is different complications.
Exactly. Right now we're working we're working with 2 different materials, and we have some additional processes integrated into the microfactory around cutting and handling, but we're not integrating beyond the timber components at the moment.
Well, yeah, thank you. It's really cool.
Thanks.
Okay. Good stuff. Thank you, Molly. Thank you for your question, Chris. We are going to wrap things up now. So just a quick summary from me, from each of our 4 keynotes. First of all, we heard from Andrew Knight, the Global AI Data Tech Lead at the RICS, who initially talked about membership of the RICS, introduced the full topic from robotics and AI and how it works within the building industry, and then delved into the topic of offsite robots and offsite construction with sensors that can not only monitor safety on site, but also various other measurements, shown as a case study in 3D printing, and whole building with the data gathering and the various platforms that were available. Andrew also touched on the impact of the workforce and the impact of safety and even ethics, which opened up the idea of blending humans and their skills with machine technologies in order to collaborate together in the future. We then heard from keynote 2, which was Eva Magnasali, the founder and CEO of Dataform Lab. Eva started her presentation by introducing the idea that the building industry struggles to keep up with the demand of the amount and need for buildings across the world, and Dataform Lab technology was introduced as a good way to save time, using automation, robotics and AI to make planning and processing of buildings more efficient, and in some cases making everything speedier from a process that would take usually 4 weeks to maybe even down to 1 day, thanks to the drag and drop ability of the software platform that Dataform Lab, should I say, offers. Thirdly, we heard from Lillian Ho, who is the digital lead and senior BIM manager at AECOM. Lillian started talking about the operation of robots and the way that we in the building industry are in transition between human-centered operation and robotics right now. She touched on the fact there is a little confusion in different companies as to what is available and what can be done, and showed us some examples of what is out there to help reduce time costs and increase efficiency. Some of the examples touched on by Lillian included Machina Labs, their robotic arms used widely in manufacturing, the Field AI solution, or the robotic dog, and finally the HP Site Print, which transfers real-time site data to software used with BIM systems to help the designers. In summary, it's not about replacing the human, but it's about enabling humans to do more and reduce the possibility of human error and cost, and obviously saving time and money. And finally, we heard from Mollie Claypool, who is the co-founder and CEO of Automated Architecture. Mollie dived straight into the nuts and bolts of what is available in automation for manufacturing, designing and building on-site homes. She introduced to us the robotic arm and the scalability for small to large factories, and this system can obviously help to build one home in one 8-hour shift. Mollie introduced us to the Revit plugin for BIM models, which again is fast, quick and efficient. Examples of the buildings created using this technology included the Winter Circus example in Ghent, the Quartier 51 dam for 150 homes. Mollie is building the first robotically assembled homes in various places and has already produced 3 micro factories up and running. Her ambition, the ambition of the company, is to get 7 micro factories up and running by the end of 2025. A surprise development is the portable micro factory that is like a mobile on-site robotic factory to be used on site. And finally, just highlighting the fact that it's extremely exciting mobile innovation, offering a future insight of building homes on site, changing the way people build homes and the future landscape. So a really interesting session today on automation, AI and robotics. I hope everyone found it useful. Additionally, we also organise the Building Innovation Awards, which takes place on the 17th of October in Manchester, here in the UK. The deadline for entering is in a couple of weeks, a week on Friday. One of the categories is Best Use of Automation and AI, something that Automated Architecture have already entered for, I believe. So please feel free to have a look at that. Otherwise, it's a big thank you from me and everyone here at Building Digital, including my colleague Gillian. Big thank you to our 4 keynote presenters. Thank you for attending, and I hope everyone found it useful.